Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's me, it's Jinsula. I hope every single one of you is having a good day, and welcome to today's Pokemon Go video. Alright, so I'm about to fly out to go to New York City, and the reason for that is because of course, Pokemon Go Fest. I am so excited for this event, mainly because I feel like it's going to be a repeat of last year, and last year's Pokemon Go Fest was a phenomenal time. I think Niantic did a phenomenal job with Pokemon Go Fest last year, and if it's anything like how it was last year, this year is going to be also amazing. I really enjoy New York City. I feel like it's one of those cities where it is a prime location in the world. I wouldn't ever live in New York City. I feel like it's a little too dirty for that, and you know, the cost of living is just so high. But visiting New York City, it's probably one of the best places to visit in the world. So I'm really glad that Niantic is doing Pokemon Go Fest there once again, and I hope they continue to do so. Yeah, I do live in Chicago, Illinois, where they've hosted Pokemon Go Fest here many times. And having the convenience of Pokemon Go Fest being just 30 minutes away, that was always really great. But personally, I like the excuse to be able to travel. And New York City is one of those places where I love going there. So yeah, if Niantic were to continue having them in New York City, I would absolutely not complain. But I know there's a lot of people out there who would want Pokemon Go Fest for their cities. Like there's some people who live in the South, like in Phoenix and Florida, who have been wanting Pokemon Go Fest. But maybe, who knows, they will have a Pokemon Go Fest there soon. At least they should consider having Go Tour in different cities. Like, that would be really good. I mean, it is a tour, right? So maybe next year's Pokemon Go Tour is going to be in one of those cities. But at the very least, they're going to be having Go Fest in New York 2 years in a row. And I'm all for that because last year it was such a great time. And I'm definitely looking forward to this time around because there's a lot of things that I wish I did last time that I'm definitely going to be doing this time. First and foremost, I'm going to be there for one extra day. Last year, basically, I flew in on Friday, did Go Fest on Saturday, and then I flew out on Sunday morning. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to actually stay for the entirety of Sunday, at least give myself an extra day so that I could do additional raids, I could meet other trainers. And that is because I really felt like I missed out on a lot of the community aspects of Pokemon Go Fest last year. So this time around, I plan to go to a couple of meetups and try to meet other players just to kind of get a gauge of how the community is feeling towards Pokemon Go. And I think it's really important that I do that because for my channel, it's all about how Pokemon Go is doing. Like, I talk about all of the controversies, I talk about what the community is thinking, and I can't really do that if I'm not talking to the community. So hopefully I'll be able to see a bunch of you out in New York. That would be really cool. I would definitely like to talk to a lot of people and just try to figure out how people are feeling about Pokemon Go. Because yeah, even though it is Pokemon Go Fest, we are at a very weird time when it comes to Pokemon Go. I feel like there's just a lot of negativity that's surrounding the game, especially after last year's Remote Raid Pass nerf. So yeah, I think it'd be really good to see just kind of where the pulse is when it comes to Pokemon Go. And I think the community is the best way for you to look into that. But I was talking about how I'm better preparing myself. Well, this time around, I'm bringing a brand new phone charger. That was one of my problems with last year. This time, I'm going to be bringing this giant thing. I don't know how it's going to fit in my pocket. I'll probably be wearing a backpack throughout the entire day, just so I could actually pack this when I'm not using it. But last year, I had a super old phone charger, one that I've had for about 10 years. And it completely died on me in the middle of Go Fest, so that was very miserable. So this time around, I bought a new one, and I plan to use it. I think it's going to be something that is definitely going to improve my experience, and yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing. But I also plan to go to different restaurants during Go Fest. I think last year I just kind of went along with Jay Kim. He's from New York, so he obviously knows a lot of the ins and outs of New York City. But he's not going to be attending this year, so I'm going to be losing that guide for New York City. So I did a lot of prior research. I plan to go to different stops. I'll be saying on Twitter where I'm going to be going so that people, if they want to meet up, they could go to those different spots. But yeah, for the most part, I think it's going to be a little bit more, I don't know, better planned out. I think last year I just kind of winged it, but this year I plan to actually try to enjoy New York City in a more proper way. What else am I doing? Well, I think for last year, one of the things that I wish I did was give myself a lot of time to rest. I think between doing all the stuff with the park experience as well as the city exploration experience, it was just go, go, go the entire day. And I really felt like at some points I just got really exhausted and I was a little bit directionless. I was just basically going with the flow. So this time around, I want to make sure I have at least 30 minutes to an hour here and there to just kind of relax and just rest. So I think what I'm going to do is that between the park experience, which I'm going to be doing in the morning, and then the city experience, I'm actually going to go to my hotel room and just give myself like a 30-minute breather. I think that's going to do me a lot of good. And then, yeah, I did not do this last year, which I typically do every year before every single Go Fest, but I cleared out my Pokemon storage of Pokemon that I haven't been using, and then of course, stocking up on Pokeballs and items. It's so essential. It's probably the most important thing before every single live in-person event, that you stock up on a whole bunch of items like Pokeballs, and then of course you clear out your Pokemon storage because you're just constantly catching Pokemon throughout the entirety of the day. And if you run out of Pokemon storage, it's an incredibly big hassle to just sit there and clear out your Pokemon storage so that you can continue playing. So this time around, I cleared out about 600 slots in my Pokemon storage, basically deleted a bunch of useless shinies and a bunch of, I've even deleted a couple of hundos that I know I'm never gonna power up. And yeah, it was tough because there's obviously a lot of sentimental value around every single Pokemon that you catch. Some Pokemon obviously are just meant to be transferred, but some Pokemon like shinies and 100% IVs and even some legendaries, they just have just straight up sentimental value. So it was really tough to pick and choose which Pokemon I wanted to keep. I really feel like at this point, Niantic should just give us a way to store Pokemon or archive Pokemon so that they're not sitting in our Pokemon storage, but they're Pokemon we could still look at and still keep in some way. I don't know how that could work. Maybe they could have some sort of Pokemon bank system. Some players will say that, oh, that's what Pokemon Home is for, but I feel like with Pokemon Home, unless you're actually paying for it, it's not necessarily the best way to archive Pokemon. That's just my personal opinion. But yeah, I feel like with Pokemon Go Fest, it requires a lot of preparation, and I feel a lot better prepared this time around. So yeah, that just adds to my excitement because Pokemon Go Fest, like I said, is always the landmark event every single year. I mean, even with Go Tour, I feel like nothing beats Pokemon Go Fest. And yeah, this time around, I think it's going to be a really good time, especially because they're doing a lot of the same things as last year, and I loved Pokemon Go Fest last year. Now, let's talk about a couple of things that I feel like a lot of people are saying within the Pokemon Go community regarding Pokemon Go Fest. First and foremost, I did kind of mention it earlier, but Pokemon Go Fest is happening in New York City for 2 years in a row, and I think a lot of players would like to see them go to different cities. To that, I agree. I think it'd be nice if they changed the venue every now and then, but like I said, I think New York City is a perfect city for Pokemon Go Fest, but I can understand that some players would want it in places like Seattle, Boston. You know, there's so many different places they could have Pokemon Go Fest. Atlanta, one of the Florida cities would be really good for Pokemon Go Fest, but I think ultimately what it comes down to is that Niantic likes to keep doing things in cities where it is working. Like, they had it in Chicago for, I want to say, like 3 years in a row. 4 years in a row if you count Legendary Night. And I do think the reason for that is because, hey, they're familiar with the city at that point. They know how to run the event in that city. So why fix what isn't broken? I think that's kind of the attitude that Niantic has. And I'm okay with that, personally. If Niantic gives me an excuse to go to New York City every single year, I'd be perfectly happy with that. But if they also want to diversify it up and go to different cities in the United States, places I haven't been to, then I'm also okay with that. I think there's a lot of great places that they could have Pokemon Go Fest, and I think it'd be really great to have different cities and different cultures represented. But yeah, maybe that's what they're doing with Go Tour, because last year they had Go Tour in Las Vegas, and then this year they had it in Los Angeles. So who knows? Maybe that's the solution. But yeah, I think for people who want Pokemon Go Fest in their city and they can't make it out to New York, I unfortunately do not know if Niantic is ever going to have it in your city. But who knows, maybe if you keep voicing your opinions on social media and do it in a very constructive way, Niantic may consider it. But that's just, yeah, I don't know at that point, but... Now, another thing that I keep hearing coming up when it comes to Pokemon Go Fest, and this is something that I kind of wanted to save for its own video, but I'll kind of touch on it here. So a lot of people feel like if you're buying into Pokemon Go Fest, buying the ticket, buying all the add-ons, just generating a lot of revenue for Niantic, it gives them a lot of justification to do a lot of things that players just do not like nerfing remote raid passes. I tend to disagree with that in some ways, but I also agree with it. I do think that if you continue to feed Niantic money, then they're going to feel justified to make decisions that is more on their terms rather than the Pokemon Go community, because essentially the Pokemon Go community is keeping them afloat, and there's no real danger for them to ever run out of revenue. But at the same time, I also feel like you could also reward them for things that are really good. And that's totally okay. Like Pokemon Go Fest, I think they do a really good job with it, and they're always on top of their game. And at that point, I feel like they deserve a reward, some positive reinforcement for them doing that. If Pokemon Go Fest is going really well, then they deservingly deserve revenue for them doing a good job. But of course, all the other areas of the game is not doing really well, and I feel like we need to vote with our wallets in those areas. If you feel like Niantic did a really bad job with the remote raid pass nerf, then don't ever buy raid passes, and then Niantic will feel the burn in that way. But when it comes to Pokemon Go Fest, if they're doing a really great job, personally, I feel like they deserve the revenue for just specifically Go Fest. But that's just me. I actually feel like the revenue that they're generating from GoFest is going down every single year, so in that respect, maybe for all those people who feel like Niantic doesn't deserve the revenue from Pokemon Go Fest, that could be a bit of cold comfort, but yeah. Personally, I feel like Niantic does a really good job with Pokemon Go Fest, and I personally want to attend those Pokemon Go Fest. It's not just for content. I actually really enjoy every single Pokemon Go Fest that we've ever had, except for the first one, obviously, but even then, it was still a fun experience to be able to go to something like that, but yeah, totally understandable that Niantic is also kind of traumatized from that first Go Fest. At least all the ones that I've talked to, like all the people at Niantic that I've talked to, they never even bring it up outside of it being a learning experience, but yeah. Alright, so I've just been rambling for the last 5 or 10 minutes, so I'm just gonna end the video here. I would love to know your thoughts regarding Pokemon Go Fest. Are some of you attending New York City? Hopefully we'll be able to see each other. That'd be really cool. Yeah, let's have those conversations that I really want, that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really great time. If you're going to Pokemon Go Fest for the first time this year, I really do think you're gonna enjoy it, but make sure you're best prepared. Do a lot of research on how you could be prepared for Pokemon Go Fest, because if you're not prepared, it's actually going to be a tough time rather than a good time, so yeah. But in any case, that's going to be it for this video. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end. If you ended up enjoying it and found it to be insightful, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And also don't forget that notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And real quick, let me give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Jinsula channel, the best way you could do so is by becoming a member of my Patreon. And if you choose to do that, I will add you to my Pokemon Go friends list. So when it comes to remote raids and the friendship system, if you want to play Pokemon Go with me, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. And if you want to support my channel in a different way, you can do so by following me on social. And thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you ended up enjoying it and found it to be insightful, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And also don't forget that notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload videos. And I want to give a shout out to all of my patrons on Patreon. You make this channel content possible. If you want to support the Jinsula channel, the absolute best way you can do so is by joining my Patreon. If you do that, you will get a permanent spot on my in-game Pokemon Go friends list. So that means for remote raids or the friendship system, if you want to play Pokemon Go with me, then make sure you go and check out my Patreon. And if you want to support my channel in a different way, you can do so by following me on social media. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms that you see on screen. Make sure you go over there and give me a follow. And that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself, and I'll catch you all later.